Hey, Ivan. Well, happy to be on. It's fun to be on here. So I am from the United States. Salt Lake City, Utah is where I'm based out of. I just by brief introduction, I've ran two funds, started two funds in my 20s. We raised and deployed millions of dollars out of those. I'm actually launching a third fund right now. It's kind of secretive. I'm not going to tell you all the details there, but it's been pretty fun. And then since then, we've actually started to teach people online about investment funds. So I can tell you my story in a minute, but my dad and my brother are huge fund guys. So my dad, co-founder of a $26 billion family of real estate funds, and then my brother, chief compliance officer to $700 million real estate fund, and then just left and is launching his own fund right now. And he's a security attorney as well. And none of us went to Harvard. None of us did the Ivy League schools. None of us worked on Wall Street. We're all just regular entrepreneurs that figured this thing out and decided to go to scale it and launch it.
No, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, so to know what funds are, and somebody who's interested in them and heard about Warren Buffett, heard about these big names, can you explain it in a brief?
Yeah. So what a fund, all it is, you hear about private equity, hedge funds, real estate funds, these kind of crazy words. Like, what is it? All it really is, a fund in the most basic sense, is a pool of money. Investors put money into that pool. And then people like me and you, fund managers, we can draw from that pool and go make investments. So we can buy cryptocurrency, we can buy real estate, we can buy businesses, we can buy stocks. And when those investments make money, that flows back to the pool of money, and then it gets split between the fund managers and investors. That's it. Like it's like the oldest business model on the planet. Like, let's put money together, let's go buy something, and when it makes money, let's just split it. Now, there's a lot of ways to segregate that out, and there's different ways to structure it, but that's really it. So when you talk about private equity or hedge funds or venture capital, they are all structured pretty much the same on the back end. It's really simple. And the only difference is what they invest into. So private equity, what is private equity? It's a pool of money. They go and buy privately held businesses. So there's large private equity, there's mid-cap, there's small private equity. So for example, a large version, Sycamore Partners is a group in Wall Street. They bought Staples, they bought Nine West Shoes, they bought Aeropostale. Last year, they were trying to buy Victoria's Secret. Okay. A lot of brand names they bring under one house. I have a buddy, he goes and buys restaurants, small mom and pop restaurants. They buy private business. That's all private equity is. And guess what? When those businesses make money, they split it with their investors. Hedge funds, they are buying public securities, same pool, but they're going to buy public things. So futures, options, they can do commodities, they can do crypto, they can do Forex. Real estate funds, they buy real estate. Venture capital, they invest into small startups. I mean, they're all structured pretty much the same. It's not that complex. And these categories have created more wealth than anything else on the planet Earth. You look at the Forbes 100 list, it is riddled with fund managers. It is, I can go on and on about how much money is created in funds. A lot of you guys, if you're listening to this, will probably know someone who, or someone on the news that runs a massive fund. I'll give you one example. You guys, if you've been watching AMC or GameStop, you've seen, I'm spacing his name, Ken Griffin, fund manager of Citadel. He makes monthly returns from just his fund, not his net worth, not his stock price goes up. His fund makes him $100 million a month from his fund. That's the power of running an investment fund. Every month he has 100, and that's not personal investments. That's literally one source of income, 100 million a month. I don't even know what I would do with $100 million a month. But anyways, that's what we're talking about. That's the world of funds. That's what we're into.
That's a lot of money. Well, to have that kind of money and to be in that position to manage a fund, I see you go through it with your YouTube channel, but what kind of personalities do people need to have for that?
Number one, you need to be deeply honest. And this is something people probably overlook. You think when you watch Wolf of Wall Street or these other movies, you're like, oh, I got to be like an alpha male. I got to go out and I got to be a killer, which, yeah, it's actually true in a lot of sense too. But I would say the first trait, even before that, you should be deeply honest. And why do I say that? Because you're going to be dealing with other people's a lot of money, and you're going to have a lot of zeros on your bank accounts that you're going to be managing and moving monies in a fund. If you are not honest, it's very easy and you see this with a lot of fund managers, that they, like a Bernie Madoff, like Wolf of Wall Street, they do dishonest things and they end up in jail for a long time. That's the first thing I'll say. Yeah, be deeply honest. And if you're a person that can manage finances, manage money, and you're not, like, a lot of people see zeros and they just go, man, I'm going to steal a little bit from them and I'll go buy a jet. And it's like, obviously, if don't get in the game if that's you. That's the first thing I'll say. Now, sorry, you were going to say something.
No, I was just going to go from that. I mean, obviously, you're managing a lot of people's money. You are having bad months sometimes. You have to be completely honest and let them know, hey, it's not going that well. And what kind of replies do you usually get from that?
It's funny. My funds, I've put out, I've never had a loss statement. Now, I'm saying that currently, we'll see what happens in the future, but I've never had to put out like, hey, we lost X number of dollars. Now, I have put out, we had maybe a break-even month, or which made a little bit of money. And typically, though, I've obviously very good response, but I want to tell you a different story. Guys in our group, they run a crypto fund. They manage a couple $1 million in crypto. Last crypto cycle, this last few months, they lost about half their fund in like 3 weeks. About $1 million they lost. And it wasn't just the crypto. They lost more. Like the downturn, the crypto market dropped. I don't know how much. They lost like even more than what it dropped, because they were trying to trade on the way down, doing options and all this other stuff. And they like lost even more money. And I got on a call with them and they were kind of sulking a little bit, like, man, like this is bad. And I go, well, number one, have you told your investors? And have you been 100% honest with them? And they go, well, yeah, it was hard to do it. And I said, did you write what? Show me the statement. They show me, like, we were 100% honest. We told them what happened. We told them the mistakes we made. And then I said, did any of your investors leave you? And he said, no. And I go, exactly. Because investors, especially in crypto, they understand crypto market goes up and down. They're okay. They understand the risks of investing. And if you're honest with your investors, they'll stick with you. I've seen typically. Now, unless there's, really something, red flags, whatever, I see investors stick with managers as long as they are honest. And if they believe in you at the beginning, they're going to believe with you now. And the pitch is, hey, we lost some money, but now we're battle tested. We've seen a new thing. We've tweaked our algorithms. We're not going to let that happen again. Right. And if you do it in the right way, I actually see investor confidence go up. The one thing investors can't deal with is fraud. Like investors, if they hint fraud or dishonesty, they're gone faster than anything else. Too many people think, oh, I won't say anything. I'll cover it. We lost some money. We'll double it over here later and no one will know what happened. Right? It's just a losing game. It's a losing game to get into.
Of course. Now, you said your father manages a $26 billion family of funds. Is this into real estate? Where is this capital allocated?
Yeah, they're primarily recent. Now, he is recently retired. And he's kind of been stepping away for a year. So his partners have done an incredible job with it, growing it like crazy, but he's one of the co-founders originally and helped him launch, and just crazy. They IPO'd 3 weeks ago on the New York Stock Exchange. So just crazy what they've been able to do. Bridge Investment Group, BRDG is the name of the ticker. Just incredible what they've been able to do. So they primarily in real estate, multifamily, commercial office, senior assisted living, primarily in those asset classes. Yeah.
And you would say right now, I love investing in real estate. I own a couple of apartments in that category. When starting a real estate fund and you're gaining capital for that fund, what would be your first steps? I remember you going through it and you would say, find the deal, find the deal, find the deal.
Yeah.
Is that simply how it is?
There's a lot of pieces right around what's going on, but it's similar to, did you use all your own money for your deal, or did you syndicate money?
No, all my own money.
All your own money. Okay. So so that's a little, I'm asking for if syndications, it's the same process, right? If you're going to syndicate money, if you use your own money, congrats, man. That's awesome. But typically when you're first starting out trying to build a tracker, when you're trying to get money in for a deal, we've seen, and we can go through the whole fund launch form if you'd like, but we have a 4-step form to do this. But yeah, back to the beginning is find the great deal. If you're not a Wall Street guy, not a Harvard guy, because Harvard guys, this is how they'll pitch investors. Hi, we're from Harvard. We're very sophisticated. We're so great. We believe we can buy some real estate in the next 18 months. It's going to go very nicely. You want to put some money with us. And it's a nice pitch. And you go, great. guys like us, and I don't know your background, guys like me have to walk in. I say, hey, I'm not from Harvard. However, I just found a 200 unit apartment complex in Miami, Florida. It's appraised for, I don't know, 25 million. We can buy it today for 13 million. It's going into bankruptcy, and we're going to close by the end of the month. You're smart at real estate. Look at the deal. We've got these great operators around it. You can bring on your buddy, do as much due diligence as you'd like. And can we put you in for, $500,000, $2 million, $5 million on this deal? And that's how my dad was telling me, that's how they pitched their funds at the beginning. Now they pitch it differently, but at the beginning, that's how they did it. And they said 9 times out of 10, they beat out the Harvard grads. They beat out the Ivy League people because they had a tangible asset ready to go and a closing date at the end of the month. And investors can look at the deal and get into it. And yes, there's other questions to answer. There's a lot of things that go into it, but in general, I've liked that framework. And people tend to look past your pedigree, your, all these other crazy things they think they need. And then they go, man, there's a juicy deal here. These guys seem pretty competent. I like the structure. There's other investors getting into it. Yeah, I'll get into it too. And it's a great way to build a track record. Anyways, I could talk about this for an hour. That's a short version of that. But that's how they launched their first. That's how we launched our first fund. And now a fund versus syndication. Syndications, you're syndicating money per deal. Fund, you're doing more of a blind pool offering. But even with a fund, I will lead with 1 or 2 main properties. Let's just use a real estate example. Hey, we have these 2 properties. Look at the properties. We're going to buy these 2, but also with a fund, we're planning to buy 11 more properties that look just like this. And that's how we'll approach investors. And then there's a lot of different tweaks there, and that's just a quick version of that. But yeah.
Thank you for that. And Bridger, a little bit more about you. When did you start your first fund, and what was it? Was it a real estate fund? Was it a hedge fund? And how did you grow from there?
Yeah, it was actually a funny story. So growing up, I mentioned my dad a couple of times in here. I did not know he was rich at all. We grew up in a very middle-class, normal household. My dad drove a crappy car. He was an entrepreneur. I just knew he started business. He had started a number of businesses before his funds. And that's all I knew.
Billions, managing billions.
So I get into college, very ambitious. I knew I wanted to make money. I wanted to start businesses. I started 6 businesses my first 2 years of college. And these weren't like business ideas. These were actual businesses up and running. I did Chinese tutoring. I wholesaled 2 houses. I built websites for people. We did essential oils. All sorts of random stuff. And finally, my dad grabs me and he goes, Bridger, you're kind of like a chicken with your head cut off. I want you to go meet with one of my business partners. I said, okay. And so I'll make a long story a little bit shorter, but I go drive up to this guy's house. I pull through the gated community. It's just beautiful. And I pull up to this guy's huge white mansion. And I'm like, who is my dad's business partner? And I kind of double check the address, like, holy crap, like, who is this guy? And I go knock on the door and I'm like nervous, like a butler is going to come and, like, be gone, peasant, like, get out of here. Right. And anyways, I go in this guy's house. He's got the wine cellar, the basketball court, the pool. He's just got like everything, right? Cars, like, everything. And we sit down, we start to talk. And I finally ask him, like, how did you get all of this? Like, how did you do this? And he goes, Bridger, in my 20s, I was a lot like you. I started a number of businesses. I was an entrepreneur, but then he goes, then I figured out the secrets of the ultra wealthy. He goes, ultra wealthy families and people, they want their kids to go to the best universities, colleges, whatever. And then they want them to go work in private equity, hedge funds, or come back home and run the family office. And he said, I met a few guys that ran private equity funds. They were the wealthiest people I've ever met in my entire life. And I said, I don't care how long it takes. I don't care if it takes 1 year, 5 years, or 20 years. I was going to figure out what a fund was and how to start one and how to scale one. Started a fund. And he goes, at the time we were managing $8 billion of real estate. To put that into perspective, that's 4 times bigger than Grant Cardone Capital, right? And the same asset classes today, they're 10x bigger than Cardone Capital, right? 10x Cardone Capital. There you go, Cardone. I love Grant. Actually, I love their content, but anyways, I love to say that. So anyways, I was curious. I said, hey, can you mentor me? I've always heard find great mentors. And he says, Bridger, go talk to your dad. Your dad knows way more about us than I do. And I go, no. I'm like, we're kind of poor. You're obviously very rich. I would love to learn from you. And he goes, Bridger, me and your dad make about the same amount of money. and my chin dropped to the floor. I was like, huh? Like, come again? And he's like, yeah, I mean, me and your dad are pretty much on the same level. And I left the dude's house. I drove straight to my dad's house. I was like, Dad, what the heck? Like, what's going on? Like, you're making all this money. Like, why haven't I seen it? Like, why can't I order a dessert at like dinner? Cause it's too expensive. Like, what's going on? Anyways, long story short, the next 6 to 8 months, my dad taught me about funds. We sit down on a whiteboard. He taught me how funds are structured, how they're put together, how, feeder funds, Cayman Island funds, Luxembourg funds, Ireland funds. I mean, just crazy stuff about funds. And the funny thing that happens when you learn about something, you start to notice that thing in your life. And about 8 months later, I was working at another company as an intern. I'm in college. I was interning at this company. And I saw an idea where we could start a fund within this company to lend money to some of these clients. And so I thought it was a great idea. I went and talked to the owners of the business. They loved it. I talked to my dad. He loved the idea. And we put together this fund. We pieced it together. And for whatever reason, I overlooked like raising capital. Like that's like one of the main pieces of a fund, right? I just overlooked it. And I thought, shoot, I got to raise some money now. And so I said, well, I'll go pitch my dad. My dad is rich, apparently, and he would love to invest. And so I remember it was like a late Sunday night. I knock on my dad's office door and I walk in and I sit down and I go, Dad, how would you like to be our first investor into our fund? And my dad kind of laughs. He goes, Bridger, he goes, I have the money to invest, but if I invest in your fund, it would ruin the experience of you raising money on your own. And he said, no. And he kicked me out. And he said, your first investor is your hardest investor to find. This will be a crutch that you'll never be able to recover from. You need to go raise capital on your own. And he kicked me out. I took him up on the challenge. I hit the streets. I talked to everybody I knew. I raised a whopping $49,600 as a 22-year-old, which is just so small, just teeny. But I was hyped out of my mind. I was so excited. We'd raised the capital. We put the money together, and we went out and started our first fund. We were doing these micro loans. They were $2,000 and $10,000. And our first group of investors, we got them a 64% return, which is a small dollar amount, but good return. And we closed that first little fund. We launched a second fund. Our second fund, we took off. We raised and deployed millions of dollars out of that fund and scaled that really well. And then I just actually sold that fund about 2 months ago. We had a competitor come buy us out. And then right now we're launching a third fund, a different asset class, but that's what we're doing. So anyways, pretty fun.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Bridger, what kind of fund do you specifically currently manage, and how much money is involved in that fund?
So the fund I just mentioned, I just sold that a few months ago. That was a lending fund, so a debt fund. We were still doing those small micro loans, so $2,000 to $10,000, maybe $20,000 a loan. They were turning in about 4 to 6 weeks, so a very fast turn. That's why we got such high returns, because we could turn our money very quickly. The first two funds were in that asset class. Were really awesome. Right now I've partnered with two other guys in real estate. So we're doing real estate funds. We've soft raised about $16 million, looking to raise $50 million on this fund as our first kind of proof of concept fund.
Bridger, can you give me, what is your favorite and best memory from when you began hedge funds, real estate funds until now?
Inside of the funds, I would say it was like our second fund. We had raised, I can't remember, it was like $250,000 right at the beginning. And we were using that, and it was an open-ended fund. So we're still raising money, but we're now deploying money as well. And our first quarter, I'm going to mess up the numbers, but it was anywhere between, I think it was like a 3 to 5% return for the quarter. And we distributed that to our investors, and they were all like, whoa, like it actually worked. And I'm like, yeah, it worked. Like and we're just getting started. Like, we're going to go like crazy. And they were like, oh, like, sweet. And they all emailed me back like, dude, like, this is awesome. And it felt so good. Like, these are people I've known and very high net worth individuals that were like, oh, Bridger, this is awesome. And then the next quarter, I sent them even a bigger check, and they were like, dang. And like, Bridger, can I put more money in? And I said, I would love to take your money. And so they then were writing, they gave me a couple $100,000 more. And then I was like, oh, this is sweet. And then they gave me a couple hundred more thousand. And they kept ponying up and anyways, I don't know if there's one experience, but my favorite experience running a fund is writing checks to my investors. It's the best feeling when it's like they trusted me with their money. I did a good job with it. And I wrote them a check, a distribution, and it just feels, and I sent them a little email or text and I'm like, hey, check your bank account. There should be here it is. And here's the return for the quarter or whatever. Some people that I'm closer with. That's my favorite right there.
Amazing. Yeah. Amazing.
So anyways, that's a brief history on me. And so we put out online content now on funds, investment funds, how to start them, how to get them going. We've got about 4,000 students that we have a free program. Actually, I can give to your guys as well. We have a free program on our line. Anyways, 30 videos on like how to start a fund, how to get into it. We're trying to spread funds to the masses, help more and more people understand what funds are, how they're used, how to start one, how to get one going. Just because it's such a secretive, whatever you want to call it, world of funds, no one talks about it. And so we are trying to bring funds to the masses. So if people want a free course on funds, we put it out, investmentfundsecrets.com/free gift. I don't know if we can talk about it later. Anyways, I'm just plugging that right there. It's a free, we just literally put it out. It's 100% free. You put in your email and bam, you're there. We literally are doing this to help more people learn about funds. So anyways, that's us. That's a little nugget for me.